The rain is forecast in Paris today, so it's an early start at Roland Garros for the French Open. An early start for myself and the betting emporium's Nigel Seeley. Nige, tough one yesterday with Zverev. I mean, I was going to text you after during the first set. He was playing some sumptuous tennis, but I just didn't get it done in the end.
Yeah, it's his temperament didn't get him through. I mean, he had opportunities to take the first set, didn't do it. If he'd done that, we were laughing all the way to the bank. But it wasn't to be. And you know, once you lose a set against a tennis great like Djokovic or Nadal, your head completely goes. You think of what could have been and what should have been, and you can't think like that against a player like Djokovic because he just grinds you down eventually into unforced errors. And that's exactly what he did. I think we've really got to be careful now with Zverev as a player. Going forward, what do we take from this? Do we trust him in the big matches? He seems like a big schoolboy bully who can win the early rounds, but then he comes to the latter stages, he just hasn't got it mentally. He's certainly got the talent. I don't think he really knows what his best surface is yet. I mean, he's a player who can play clay, he can do well at Wimbledon with his big serve, but he could be an enigma for the next few years, and he's definitely one that I'm taking off the punting list at the moment. He won't be getting the Christmas card from me because he's let me down. Not just this occasion. On many occasions before, when I've expected him to sort of lift that, just really sort of rise to the big occasion, he's been found wanting. So, and unfortunately, but it's been an unfortunate second week. I mean, it's really hard. I mean, all this sort of advice I gave yesterday, not only in that game, the thought sort of when we sort of spoke about the games, I never expected all of them to be such one-sided affairs. And it's been that kind of tournament. The first week was phenomenal. We got all the money in the satchel in the first week, and we've given it all back and more in the second. And like I say, in Grand Slam tennis, the second weeks are hard because the bookmakers have so much to do. And there's also some unknown in this French Open. I mean, you've got so many players, like the young player, Anna Samova, what she produced yesterday was just incredible. And so you don't really know what these players have got in their locker until they perform on the big stage. So it's very, very difficult punting at this time. And I think today's matches are equally difficult as well.
Let's stay with Anna Samova. Massive shock yesterday, straight sets win over Halep. She takes on Ashley Barty, currently outright favourite this morning. Current betting, you can back Barty at 1.59, Anna Samova at 2.67. The handicap, Anna Samova getting a 3.5 game starting and back that at 1.92, and the total is 21.5. August 2001, Anna Samova was born. Doesn't make you feel old at all, Nigel, does it? Either of us.
Well, how old was I then? I was 28 when she was born. That makes me feel very, very, very old. 2001, what was I doing? I mean, Oasis had finished. I was 28. I was thinking my daughter's the same age as her, which is incredible. And I picked her up yesterday while she was stuffing her face with a Big Mac meal. So there's very, very, very difference between the Seeley 17-year-old and 17. And my daughter works at a Primark in Kingston. So very, very different between the two of them. But I wouldn't change it for the world. Maybe the money, but that's about it. But let's have a look at this game. I mean, Anisimova, I mean, nobody expected. I was watching it in awe. I mean, the shot she was making, the maturity she showed in that quarter-final victory yesterday against the defending champion and potentially the best clay court player in the world in the women's game, Halep. It was incredible. She come of age, but there's always a bit of a after the Lord Mayor show in these big matches when these young players have their first big win. And she really, we knew she was good. We knew the potential of her, but that was really her defining moment yesterday. That's when she come of age. And now she's got to do it all again against a player who I've been mightily impressed with in this tournament. And that is the thing you have to consider. You know, there was when I first started in the betting, which about 15 years before Emma Samova was born. But a guy was teaching me how to do tennis, and his first rule on tennis betting and all sports betting, the grand old guy of spread betting, and he told me that always oppose players who have such big wins, the following round that they get pumped up and they can't live up to expectation. And that's a rule that's really sort of served me exceptionally well over the last few years. But this is a difficult one to use that rule because you've got Barty, who's never been in the Grand Slam, in the chance of getting to a Grand Slam final. Actually, yes, this is her first Grand Slam semi-final. So we have got nothing to look at. We've got no proven form. We don't know whether Barty can handle the pressure in this kind of situation. So, I mean, if Anna Samova was playing an Osaka or a Kvitova, I would make a massive case for the Kvitova to win or Osaka to win because we know what they've done in Grand Slam semi-finals, whereas Barty, we don't know. just on what I've seen so far in this tournament, if you just come down from Mars and you watch the tournament, you'd say it's probably a pick and game. But I think the matchups on the two of them suit Barty. She takes the ball very early. I think Amisarova's aggressive style will suit Barty. I think if she goes toe to toe with her, I think Barty's got the strength to beat her. Halep just didn't have the weapons yesterday. So I think that Barty will probably win. And I can't really recommend a bet, Sully. I mean, it's because, it's one of those in running. I would watch to see how both players took the occasion. Yeah, Amisamova played 80% of what she showed yesterday. This could be a long one. But if Barty, we don't know what her conditioning is like, what her temperament is like, serving at the vital points of a place in the Grand Slam final at stake. So I'm swerving it. But like I said yesterday, I was backing Barty for Wimbledon, and I've continued to back Wimbledon. I think if you look at Wimbledon betting, Serena Williams, not for me. Osaka, not fit. Halep, absolutely all over the place yesterday. Kvitova is injured. Barty, 14, 16 to 1. She's not far off favourite in my book.
Yeah, and a bigger price when you recommended her a couple of weeks ago, Nigel. Sometimes no bet is the best bet, Nigel. So we move on to Joanna Konta and Vondrousova game. 1.74 Konta at the moment, Vondrousova 2.33. The handicap is 2. Vondrousova's obviously getting a 2-game start, currently back at 1.97, and the total is 22, slightly favouring the under. Joanna Konta never won a main draw game at the French Open until this year. But I mean, I backed Sloane Stephens against her the other day, and she was absolutely tremendous, especially on the serve. Very hard to oppose her here. But on the other side, Vondrousova, tough one against Petra Martic last day, but came through as well. Tough one here as well, Nigel.
Yeah, I mean, nobody's won more women's tennis matches in 2019 than Vondrousova. She's the informed player. But saying that, if you look at their clay court record, Konta's 15-3 for 2019, which is incredible, and Vondrousova's 12-2 for 2019, which is very impressive as well for a 19-year-old. Again, this is a carbon copy, really, of what we spoke about in the first game. Konta's been in a couple of semi-finals before. Vondrousova hasn't. She's been absolutely unbelievable on her route through to the final. She did show signs to me of nerves against Martic. She dropped her serve when she was serving for the match on a couple of occasions. Martic had 3 set points in the first set. She should have beaten her in the second set. So she does look. Both of these players to me look vulnerable players. I mean, I wouldn't back them, either of them, with any confidence. And I expect this one to be a real long one because it's a huge game for both players. And again, I think both of them haven't been in the position before, and both of them, however great they are, both of them do have wobbles at certain stages of match. Konta played her perfect match against her. She cannot get any better than that. And and I think if you look at her matches previous to this tournament, she does lose a set. She loses concentration. So for me, I think, again, I'm not going to have an opinion on the outright, but if I was going to have a bet, I think the over on the games is the way to go. I mean, they played earlier in the year on clay in Rome just last month, and Konta won 2-1. They were quite one-sided sets. She won 6-3, 6-3, 3-6, 6-1. So that was 19, 18, so was that 18, 25 games in that match. And that's what you usually get in clay court matches. You get a lot of 6-3, 6-4s. You won't get the high scoring. And they also played Indian Wells, which was last year, and Vondrousova won in straight sets, but she won 6-4, 7-6, 6-4. So both of those matches have gone over your line of 22 there. So with a place in the Grand Slam final at stake, with two players that have had temperament issues with Vondrousova's in a bit of an unknown, but Konta certainly has. But I did show signs of nerves in that quarterfinal, and I think she could get tight in big points. So for that reason, I'm going to go over the games in this one. Like I say, the record in the like yesterday was pretty poor, but I think this could go a long way. I wouldn't like to say which way it would go. I think slightly favouring Konta, but not to the levels that the bookies are. But again, if you back Vondrousova, you're backing an unknown quantity. So over the games for me. I think if you're going to play, if you think Konta wins this tournament, I think you should back her for the Sports Personality of the Year. I know she was being backed heavily in that market during her win over Sloane Stephens. But if she can win the French Open in what is a very quiet sporting year, I mean, there's nothing going on really. If you look at the favourite is Raheem Sterling, and judging, in and out of that tournament last night. Don't laugh, Sully. I see a little smile come across your face there. I'll be speaking to you tomorrow when Denmark do you 3-0. But the thing is, it was so I think that she could be the play. So if you do fancy Konta to go well in this tournament and win the tournament, I think your better angle would be to back her to win the Sports Plus out of here at a much bigger price.
Yeah, well, you could have the English cricketers win the World Cup 2 nights, so you could have a couple of guys coming through. There you go.
India, good things for that.
We'll get on to that another day. Over 22, so 10th to play. No, before we move on to the men's, so we're looking at the forecast currently, and it does seem to be raining mid-morning in Paris. How much kind of stock do you put in this when you are placing a bet in the morning that you know that these games, there's a possibility if they do go to 3 sets that they will get interrupted? Do you put much, do you approach these with extra caution because of that?
Not really. I mean, Wimbledon was always sort of, and I think it does help the more experienced players, but none of these are experienced. So there's 4 girls there who are completely unknown quantity. If you were taking, if there was a lot of rain delays in the match we're going to talk about in a minute with Djokovic and team, that should probably favour Djokovic. But in rain delays for Federer v Nadal, I mean they're used to it. I mean, I think the rain delay cost Tim Henman his chance to get into the Wimbledon final many years ago when he was playing Goran Ivanisevic, because I think it's more important during the game. There's always one player who doesn't want a rain delay, another one who does. And I think without seeing that, I don't think pre-match we can really assess which has got the better advantage. But obviously, the more experienced players who have been in Wimbledon finals, have been in for longer stage, will know what to do with their time and know how to focus it. So Anisimova probably has never really had much of a rain delay, nor Vondrousova really. So maybe a slight advantage to the older players, but not much in the women's draw, because these women's draw are all pretty much unknown.
Yeah, and let's move on to the men's. And they say what is rare is wonderful, but a Federer-Nadal meeting is anything but rare. For the 39th time, these two take on each other. Current betting, Roger Federer 7.6, Nadal, the king of the clay, at 1.15. The handicaps, Federer is getting a 7-game start at 1.96, and 32.5 is the total. Nigel, I mean, look, Federer hasn't played for a number of years in the French Open. Yes, he's won the last 5 meetings with Nadal, but that's all out the window when Nadal is here in Roland Garros, surely.
Well, none of them on clay.
That's right, yeah.
I think whatever way you look at it, there's 2 things that you look at this. And now, if I asked you I asked 100 punters in the street who will win this game, I think 80 of them will say, 85 of them will say Nadal, which means that the price on the market's right. But if every single one of them, if I told them the prices, they'd turn around and say, well, we've got to have a few quid on Federer at that price, or Federer looks too big at that price. And I think that's the way you look at this game. I think, everything about it says Nadal wins, and he should win fairly easily. But Federer, the greatest player of all time, regardless of Nadal and Djokovic, is probably too big a price here. But I would rather back Federer if he's in play rather than before match, because he could get blown away. The other thing about Federer is he tires very quickly in long games. So when he gets into the 4th and 5th set in Grand Slams, famously against Kevin Anderson at Wimbledon last year, he was exhausted. And at 38 years of age, he will tire. And on clay, it's the most grueling surface in the world, so he's going to tire quickly. So I think that's a huge concern, because most in-running punters will say, well, if Federer wins the first set, we'll back him. Well, if it goes 2-1 or 2-2, then it counter flips your argument, because Federer's chances of winning in the final set are much slimmer. So the only way Federer, I think, can really win this game is blow him away and winning straight sets, which is virtually impossible on clay for Nadal. 32.5 games look low. It does look low. Federer on the handicap looks low. I think the first set could be quite tight. If I was probably going to have a bet on this game pre-match, which I'd probably back Federer plus 7 games, probably slightly, just a slight lean towards that, because the first sets in Federer matches, the first sets in Grand Slam semi-finals are usually quite nervy, quite tight. If you can get a 6-4 or a 7-6 or a 7-5, that'll be very hard to cover 6 or 5 games in the next 2 sets.
What about Federer there at 3.75 just to win the first set now? Just probably not the worst one, because if he's going to win a set, that may be the one.
That's got to be his tactic. His tactic has to be to go out and try to nick that first set. It's crucial for him, because you've also got to remember Nadal's body could break down. You know, Nadal is not in the top fitness as well, so it's not going to suit him either. So yeah, I mean, these are all bets that I would sort of have an interest in. You know, I mean, I'm talking like a tiny little wager just to have a little bit of interest on it. But if Federer has any chance in this game, he has to win the first set. So that will be his game plan: to come out really fast, break Nadal, which is much, you know, it's much easier said than done. But that would be the plan, and if that is the case, the seven on the handicap could be the case. But it's very, very tricky. It's very, very tricky, and to do that. But on the value purposes, all the value on it has to be with Federer at the prices. I mean, I can't ever remember him ever being this price for any tennis match ever in my life. And you know, okay, he's come to the twilight of his career, but he hasn't had a bad year on clay. You know, he's done all right. What is he? He's 9-2, only lost 2 matches. He's lost less matches on clay this year than Rafael Nadal, given Nadal's played a lot more. But Nadal hasn't had his best year on clay. But there's something about the French Open and Rafa as like Wimbledon on centre court as Federer. And it just looked, and you can remember this is probably his last French Open. So he will be going out there to make a point. And he believes he's playing good enough tennis to win this tournament. That's probably a little bit far-fetched. At his age, to beat Nadal and Djokovic will be an incredible achievement. But yeah, the prices look a bit big on Federer, but I don't think I'd be really rushing to back too much of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And he was potentially vulnerable against Varvink in the last round, but he did kind of prevail there. Let's move on to Djokovic and Thiem. I'm kind of surprised to see that. I thought Djokovic might be a bit short here tonight. Could be way off. 1.52 is Djokovic. Thiem at 2.88. The handicap is 3.5. And a way bigger total here, obviously, because this is expected to go a bit longer, 40.5. You look at Djokovic again yesterday, and you touched on it on yesterday's broadcast night. He's such a competitor. It's just so hard to beat this guy. I don't want to put words in your mouth here, but is there potential value in Djokovic here, laying 3.5?
Well, I agree with you. When I saw the prices last night on my tissues, I had him around about sort of a 2 to 5, sort of 4 to 11 shot. But Thiem was very impressive yesterday. Very, very impressive. Yeah. Admittedly, he didn't. He had the easiest of the quarterfinal ties, I think. But he done a good job on Kakanov, of a man who beat him 3-0 previously, so he turned that on his head. They both played in Madrid earlier in the year, just only a month or so ago. And Djokovic won 7-6, 7-6, and it was one of the most high standard clay court games I've seen for a long time. Really top of level. And I think Thiem, that was a perfect match for Thiem, and he still couldn't win. And that would be a big worry for me back, thinking of himself, he did beat Djokovic 3-0 in 2017 here, but that was when Djokovic had all his personal problems and his issues, and he just was never, he was going through a real bad period of his career, and Thiem took full advantage of that. But this is a fully focused Djokovic. He doesn't give you any opportunities to every time you get a break point against him, he comes back and he serves an ace, or he grinds you down, and he just plays the big point so well, and that's what tennis comes down to. This end of the top 4 in the world on ability and talent. There's a cigarette paper between the top 4 of them, but when it comes to the big points, it's about who plays the big points well, and the likes of Djokovic, Nadal, and Federer, and that's why they're at the top of the game, because they play the big points well. The last time he played Thiem never got broken at all. But in a tie break, he just couldn't live with him. He just played the big points well, and he won easy. I think he won 7-2 and 7-4. So it's going to be hard for Thiem. The one thing I do think it'll be long game. I think you will get very, very long. I mean, you mentioned yesterday you played the overs in the first set of the
Zverev and Djokovic. Yeah.
Well, this here certainly could be one for the overs, because the last 3 sets, the last two times they played, there's been a tie break in both games. The first set last time was a tie break. In 2018, they played in Monte Carlo, it was a tie break. In the French Open in 2017, it was a tie break. In 2016, it was a tie break. So in 4 of their their first sets in the matches, it's been a tie break. So, and in the Grand Slam semi-final, it will be close, exactly like we saw Zverev yesterday. It was 7-5 in the first set, and then he obviously capitulated in round two. And I think that's the kind of game you're going to get here. I think the first set will be very, very cagey, and no one will want to make any errors, and they'll just be making, just get. So probably the bet here will be the over in the first set. I do think we could be in for a real long game. I think 5-setter definitely looks on the cards, but again, 40.5, 41.5 is not the way to make money on clay court tennis playing those lines. It's high. It's very high. But I do think the first set is the angle. So if you can get, I don't know, you'll probably about 10.5 or over 11 or something like that. That could be the way to go. Especially if it's 10.5, I'd play that market.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not up a matchbook game. I suspect this game is probably going to go into tomorrow anyway, and I just have a feeling with the weather.
Well, that's good, because then you can have a bet, and the first thing get paid out today. So you don't have to write. You can have a bet on the football tonight. You can bet Denmark tonight on the football.
I knew that was coming. I absolutely knew that was coming in with the haymaker. Nigel, thanks for everything, mate. Give me the best bet of the day, so before we get you out of here.
I'm going to go over the games in Vondrasova, Konta. Slightly second over the games in the first set in Dominic Thiem and Djokovic. The other two I'd be watching briefs for me.
Sounds good. Nigel, chat to you again Saturday morning, folks. The best of luck with your French Open bets today. And like we said, we'll chat to you tomorrow for the final.